Hi, everybody. It's Monica Sigmon, Sony Artisan of Imagery, here with the next episode of Sony Alpha Female, the interviews. And I am so excited to introduce Lizzie Gadd today. Hi, Lizzie.
Hello, Monica, and hello, everybody tuning in. I'm so happy that you're here.
I'm so happy that you're here. And
Mhm.
I love that you're wearing your Sony Alpha Female t-shirt today.
Again, oopsie,
And
knocking candles over.
in honor of our Alpha Female community. So this is awesome. I'm trying to hide my non-video. Okay, there we go. So sorry. I'm back. I'm back. So
Welcome back.
Lizzie is a part of our Alpha Collective at Sony, and she is someone whose work I have admired for a long time, and I'm so excited to delve into that. If you are new to this series, this Sony Alpha Female series is spotlighting creators from that community. And if you're not already a part of that community, jump on over to Facebook, find the Sony Alpha Female Facebook group, join in. It is such a wonderful, safe space to ask questions, to learn, to bounce ideas off of, to improve your photography. And we're about 16,000 strong now. And the thing they've just started adding this year are little meetups around the country. So definitely we want to see you in that group, and we're excited to help you in there. So Lizzie, speaking of community, you and I met because of Sony Alpha Female and the
Yeah.
Sony community. And I remember being so nervous to say
Oh
hello
my gosh.
introduce myself because your work is next level. And we kind of circled around each other for a little bit and said hi at a couple things. But then this past summer at the Sony Condo event, we got some time together finally.
Yeah.
And I just thought she is as lovely as I imagined her to be. And so thank you for joining in today. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Monica. It's funny that you say that because I always am too shy to meet people, so I'll circle around them for the longest time before actually making
So
that connection. So
So funny.
you
So
and I are the
you're a
same in that
huge
way.
introvert too.
Oh
Yes.
yeah.
I know this
Yeah.
about you. I can tell. Okay, so for those of you who aren't familiar with Lizzie yet, she's going to show us some of her work here, and certainly you can find her on Instagram. It's just Elizabeth Gadd, right? On
Yeah.
Instagram.
Elizabeth Gadd. Yeah.
So take a look at her work, hopefully while we're talking. But she is someone who goes out into nature for days, weeks on end, maybe longer sometimes.
Yeah,
Hello,
it's
right?
sometimes up to a month, sometimes a
Yeah.
little more. Yeah.
That's where you get a lot of your inspiration for your portraits and where you create a
Mhm.
lot of your portraits. And, I'm someone who thinks our Airstream is camping. So I'm very fascinated by this commitment to being at one with nature,
Um,
how this drives you, and just you always have this beautiful, calm way about you. Maybe you don't feel that way on the
I
inside, but
don't always feel that way, but I'm glad you think so.
yes, you fake it very well, and you make
Yeah.
those of us around you feel very calm, and your images have
Mhm.
that same impact. So, let's start with a little background from you. Tell us how you came to be living in Banff and traveling and making these incredible self-portraits.
Well, I'm living in Banff right now, but by living I mean I'm here maybe 5, 6 months out of the year because I keep traveling back and forth between my original home in BC where I grew up with my parents and
Okay.
then traveling around the world teaching retreats or doing client shoots or traveling just for my own shoots as well. But I started in BC where I grew up, and I'd always been interested in arts and painting and nature and animals. And uh, when I got my hands on my first camera, I stole my dad's little 2 megapixel digital camera when they first became a thing back in the day. And I fell in love with that and started taking photos of nature and landscapes. And then in 2006, I think about 18 years ago, the idea hit me to start maybe taking some self portraits, just as a way to step out of my comfort zone. And I was always a very shy kid growing up. I didn't want to photograph other people, I just wanted to be in nature. So it made sense if I was going to start photographing people, it would just be me out in nature. And around that same time in 2007, I joined Flickr and started making friends with other like-minded artists on there. And a lot of them were practicing self-portraiture, like Brooke Shaden, who most of you probably know, Joel Robison, so many amazing people. So we became friends, and I got inspired to start a 365 project of self-portraits for the entire year of 2010. And I still didn't really have my style yet. I just knew that I wanted to be a photographer at that point. I knew that that was going to be my future. I knew I had to step out of my comfort zone. I knew it would be a great way to push my own boundaries. So I took on this self-portrait project, inspired by all of my friends on Flickr. And it was only on the very last day of that year, the whole year, I was thinking, I'm going to be so done with self-portraits by the end of this. Like, I'm not meant to be in front of the camera. I'm just experimenting here. On the very last day, I went out to the mountains to get my last image of the year. I wanted to go out with a bang. And it was minus 10 degrees Celsius. I don't know what that is Fahrenheit, but it
I
was
don't
cold.
either. I don't either. Somebody can Google it. I don't know.
And I just walked out onto these rocks in the lake near where I grew up, and the rocks were covered in a layer of ice. So I slipped into the water up to my knees, and my dress froze within a minute, like cardboard from the knees down.
Oh my
But
goodness.
I crouched down on those rocks, and it was early morning. The sun was just rising, and everything was so still and serene and peaceful. And as I was taking that image and trying to bring that feeling into the image, that feeling of peace and connection with nature. It's funny that it happened on the very last day of this project. It just clicked in my brain, and I realized that that's what I want to capture for the rest of my foreseeable future in photography, that moment of finding peace and stillness in nature. And it's been ever since that. That was 15 years ago now, I think. And I've been doing that for 15 years.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So, just to make sure I'm clear, you did a self-portrait every day for a year.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about that discipline for a minute because
It took a lot
that's
of discipline.
huge. So, how did you come up with 365 ideas? Did you work on each of the images, or was the exercise really in just the creation? Like, walk us through
Some
that.
of both. I still like every day was a new experiment. I usually would take my camera and my first dog at the time, Sparky, and we would go for a walk every day. I couldn't drive yet 15 years ago. Um, so I would walk to all the forests and sometimes walk miles, like 20 kilometers a day to reach some of these places with my dog and set up a self-portrait. And I was homeschooled at the time. I was in high school, homeschooled. And for me, that means I basically didn't do school because I just love doing arts. And my parents have always been very supportive of what all of us kids love. I'm one of five siblings, so came from a busy family, which is probably why I like to walk by myself for hours at a time and be alone a lot.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, so every day was um, not so much thinking of an idea beforehand, but getting outside and letting ideas come to me as I was walking my dog. Sometimes I would pack some scarves or costumes. I didn't really start wearing many dresses yet during the 365 project. I would mostly wear like my big baggy sweater and pajama pants everywhere because I like to be comfy. So a lot of the photos, they're not what they are today. They're very experimental, and some days I'd put up to 5 or 6 hours into it. Some days I would remember 5 minutes to midnight that I didn't take a photo, and I would quickly take the easiest self portrait that I could that day.
Oh,
But
wow.
I never missed a day. So,
Wow.
and I'll say of all my years of photography, that was the year that I grew the most in terms of learning how to edit photos, just having being driven to sit down every single day and work on it. Practice brings you a long ways. And I was amazed at how fast I learned in that one year. And it really set me on the right track for the next 15 years.
Do you feel that the image you took on that last day, obviously it felt different to you.
Yeah,
Did it also look different than the other ones that you had captured throughout the year?
it did look a little different. I was further out into the frame. So I was more one with the landscape. A lot of the images I had taken were closer up self-portraits and with like bird nests in my hair and trying to come up with cool conceptual ideas and partially inspired by everybody on Flickr, like Brooke Shade and Joel Robinson. Everybody was experimenting and I tried a bunch of weird things and but I realized that I still never enjoyed so much showing my face in front of the camera or being up close. It was at the end of that year when I realized that photo where I was further away, immersed into nature. That's what gave me that feeling that this is what I want to keep capturing. So yeah, I think it definitely looks different from the rest of the photos, but the rest of the photos are all here, there, and everywhere. So it's hard to compare
So
them all.
what made you decide to pursue self-portraits in the first place? And it's funny because Brooke is a huge introvert too. People don't
Yeah.
always realize that about Brooke, but she's a huge introvert. So
Yeah.
for me, I mean, I know that the technical definition of introvert versus extrovert is how we replenish, how we
Mm-hmm.
kind of get ourselves back after exertion or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, but I also think of introverts, and I'm an introvert too. And I feel like for me, it's that I don't want attention on me.
Mm-hmm.
So is that how you feel generally? And how do you then reconcile that with self-portraits? Why would you do what feels like the opposite of
I
being?
love that question. um, yeah, I definitely, in real life, I get very nervous about attention on me. Like even this, I'm super glad that we're doing this, but I get so nervous beforehand. Being in at real life events in front of people, if attention is on me, I will be having anxiety for days beforehand, not being able to eat or anything. So with self-portraits, um, it's kind of, I think when I started, it was more for me, and even now, when I take these self-portraits now, it's all for me to learn how to connect with myself and my emotions and not to put myself out for the world to see, which
Mm.
is scary. But I've also seen how people connect with those photos. And I think that's one reason why I like to be more further away in the photos. And I'm so often looking away so people can't connect with my face so much, but more if they see that photo, they can almost pretend it's themselves immersed into that landscape. And that's the feeling that I'd love these photos to give. And yeah, not make it about me, but about somebody, the viewer, connecting with nature through that image. But it is weird because I've had so many people ask if doing self-portraits feels self-centered in a way. But
Hmm.
I think because I'm so uh, shy and introverted, how do I explain this? It's yeah, when like I wouldn't photograph anybody else growing up. I was too shy for that. And doing
Okay.
the yeah, so doing the self-portraits was my way of photographing people, even though
You
it was
didn't have to
super
go
scary to
ask
get into the
somebody.
yeah. And over time, getting in front of the camera, even though it was super scary, it became a therapeutic way to learn more how to love myself in front of the camera, which I think over the years has helped me be able to trust myself and love myself when being in front of actual people as well. So I think it's
Wow.
all helped in that regard with my introvertism.
What a full circle. I love that. And so, yeah, it took a minute, but it's like you were avoid like not wanting to ask other people. So it was almost
Mm-hmm.
like by default, right? That you started
Yeah,
photographing yourself.
yeah.
And now you lead these amazing, we're going to get to them shortly, these amazing workshops. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
thinking, wow, who is this person that would be scared to do that? Because you have so much to offer. And
Oh, it's so
but
scary
I
every time.
appreciate that you're sharing this journey because there's so many people out there that I know feel the same way and don't really know
Oh
how
yeah.
to break through. But I think too, what you've kind of just taught me is that it's really not about the portraits of you. It's
Mm-hmm.
about that bigger message. And
Yeah.
so if you had to, um, sum up that bigger message in one sentence? I mean, we know it's about nature and the peaceful feeling of being in nature, but what is it? What's the ultimate message you're trying to give the world with your work?
Probably just a way for us to match our heartbeats to the beat of nature. Um, when people see my work, I want them to feel their heart rate slow down. I want them to imagine that they're there. I want them to be inspired to get out and put their hand on a tree or climb a mountain and just marvel in their surroundings. And when they look at the my images, I really hope that they'll feel some kind of the peace that I felt while taking those photos. I hope that will resonate with them somehow. So I think that's the message that I want people to take from my photos.
Well, this is a good jumping off point for us to share a couple of your
Mhm.
images because I think people will be, and by people, like I don't even care if anybody else is listening. I'm going to be selfish, people being me. I would love to hear the thought process behind some of them. And I know you're going to open with one of my favorite images of you and one that I purchased with the 100 for the Ocean fundraiser. And I would love, love, love to hear your thoughts behind this.
Yes. All right. Shall I screen share that image?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, let me know when you can see it.
There we go. Oh, I love this so much.
Yeah, this is Mother Nature. And this photo was taken in Scotland in 2019, I think it was, 5 years ago. Um, I went there to do my first ever workshop with a couple other Sony ladies, um, Kath Simard and Charlie. I'm blanking on her last name right now, Charlotte. Um, and we had a blast there. But before we did that workshop, I met up with Alistair Jolly and Anton Lorimer. I'm not sure how to say his last name, but they wanted to film a little documentary on me and my self portraits, and they wanted to do it in Scotland. So I flew out ahead of the workshop, and we spent a week going all over the Isle of Skye, and they were filming me and my process through creating these self portraits. And when we came to this tree, I immediately got this idea in my head. I had packed a green dress and there were these fresh spring leaves growing on the tree, and it was such a whimsical looking tree, which I love, very fairy tale and storybookish.
Yeah.
Um, but also, as I found out, like everywhere in the world, tourism is at like an all-time high. So when we came to this place in Scotland, there were loads of other photographers photographing this tree, all just landscape photos, no human element involved.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, we're going to come back to this tree because I have an idea for this. So we hiked past, and the next day we came back, and the skies were all bright blue. Everything was super contrasty, and which was funny for Scotland. We thought we'd have a week of
Yeah.
moody weather, and we mostly had a week of full on sun and heat. So I didn't get as many of the moody photos as I had wanted, but I knew that I wanted some softer lighting for this image, so we left it again. We came back the next day at sunrise, and again, it was busy with lots of photographers at sunrise, so we hiked past it. And then a few hours later, we were hiking back to it, and a little bit of a thunder shower started coming through and softening the light. And at the middle of the day, by the time we were back, nobody else was there. We had the whole area to ourselves. So I threw on the green dress, started setting up my camera in the rain, just put it right down on the grass, and there was sheep poop everywhere. The camera was getting covered in. And yeah, I wanted to put it down low and kind of create this framing of this tree was coming out of a little valley on a cliffside. So I wanted the sharp little ditch valley thing to frame the photo with my wide angle lens. And then I wanted this image to express uh, connection with Mother Nature. And by wearing my green dress, I wanted to feel like I was one with the tree or part of the bigger picture here. And the title Mother Nature just popped into my head as I was creating this, where I just wanted to show like our uh what I hope people will take away is a gentle connection with nature. I think we need to be kinder to nature, nurture nature, like nature nurtures us and our own souls and emotions when we spend time in it. And this is the photo that came out of that thought process.
So beautiful. So tell everybody, I'm just trying to imagine questions that people are thinking right now. So,
Yeah,
what camera are you shooting with?
I am shooting right now with the Sony A7R5. And with
And
this photo, I think it was the A7R3.
why are you choosing why are you choosing that body, the 7 series? Why are you choosing that?
It's what I started on with the A7R3 and then the A7R5. It seemed like the natural upgrade. And for portraiture like this, that I do love to print very large. I love that the A7R5 is 61 megapixels, I think it is. And compared to the older cameras I've had over the years, editing these, being able to zoom far in and see all the precise details and having that ability to print these as massive prints, I always love. And yeah, the A7R5 for me, it's been the perfect portraiture camera, not just for self portraits, but for all my
Yeah.
client shoots as well.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what we use here. So yeah,
nice.
I think it's for me, it's the most fun camera I've ever. It's so intuitive. It just makes shooting a joy.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
yeah,
just so fun. So,
yeah. I love
and
it so
then
much.
what kind of lens are you using for something like this?
I think this one was probably my 24 to 70 lens. Um, Usually I'll use that or my 50 millimeter 1.2 or the 35 millimeter 1.4. Those are generally my three go-to lenses. Although I recently just got the 70 to 200
Ooh,
2.8, the
yeah,
second version of that lens, and I
so
love it so
nice.
much.
So nice, so light and easy to
Hmm.
travel with.
Oh, it's
So,
amazing.
is there any Photoshop in your images?
There is no compositing. That's one of the biggest asked questions that I get is that people don't realize these images are real.
Yeah.
All my images, like this main image here, uh, the whole centered part is, or all of it's real, but I did have to stitch together some of the outside images. I took a photo of the center and then took a couple photos on either side just to get that whole scene there. But most of my photos is just a one shot still image. And I'll use Lightroom to go in and play with the colors, which I love. I think it brings me back to when I was young, before photography, when I would paint. I love playing with all the sliders and paintbrush tools and everything in Lightroom. And I just try to bring out the colors like how I saw them in real life there, or how I imagined them in my fantasy brain that imagines everything is brighter and bolder.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so I'll bring out all the colors in Lightroom. And sometimes in Photoshop, I'll just bring the image in to take out a couple distracting objects if there's like a weird rock on the ground or something that I find takes away from the photo instead of adding to it. But otherwise, that's um, the extent of what I ever use Photoshop for. So most of these images are all very real, taken on the scene right there.
I think that's so important and something I did not realize about your work because I own this piece and I thought this was a composite. And
Yeah,
so I love knowing that because it ties in so well with your message of preserving nature as it is. And you're
yeah,
not, you're not making something up. This beauty actually exists in our
yeah,
world.
for
And I
sure.
think that
And
that's so such an important part.
yeah. And for me, like I have so many composite artist friends, we can name a whole bunch that I love their work and I love what they do.
Truly,
But
yes.
yeah, but for me, it's the process of creating these images is what means the most to me and being out there capturing this real image in a real place. Um, that's what gives me the drive to keep creating these. So I've just never had that desire to create composites. I like to know that my images were pieces of real life that I got to see and experience.
That's amazing. I love that. And
Mhm.
yes, I'm glad you qualified that because it's not saying that we don't love, the work of others that to do that so much digitally.
Yeah,
But it's so different. And I think this ties in really well with the message that you're trying to put out there. So So yay, I'm so glad to know that about
Yeah.
my print. I'm so happy that you signed for me, which I'm so honored for.
It's a real
So
image.
yes, I know. I love it. I love it. So show us a couple more and then we'll come back and talk about some other
Alrighty. Let's see. There,
things.
ooh, this one, which is uh titled Nothing Left But Stories.
Oh.
And this image, most of my images are uh very spontaneous. This is one that I had in my head for years, one of the very few that I've thought of ahead of time, but could never time it right with uh the right iceberg safely washed on shore.
Right, right.
But last year I was in Iceland with my partner Chris, and we witnessed this huge calving of the glacier in the middle of the night. It was midsummer, so it was still light out at night, so we were exploring in the wee hours of the morning. And this massive, like big apartment-sized chunk of ice broke off from the glacier under the water. It just came up from
Wow.
underwater. And we never would have, we were climbing up on the cliffs above the glacier, and there was no warning. Just all of a sudden the water started, like it was like this building coming up from underwater, and it wreaked havoc. The waves were huge, and we were like, oh wow, we're glad that we're not right down at the lagoon right now. But seeing a chunk of ice that size come up and then break into a million pieces, and a few days later we came back and just saw how different it looked. And I've been coming back to this glacier for the last 10 years since I was first there, seeing every year when I return how different it is, how much it's shrunken.
Wow.
Uh, made me, or it gave me this idea to create an image kind of showing, uh, yeah, connecting with some of the last of the ice. Soon there will be nothing left but stories. And to portray that, I felt like lying down on the iceberg, um, connecting with it, kind of resting with it, and saying goodbye to it. Uh, I felt like creating this piece would kind of portray that idea. And after that calving event, we came back a few days later, and that perfect iceberg was washed up on just a few inches of water. So I didn't have to wade deep into it. And I was able to
Wow.
lay down and capture this at 3 in the morning.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy. Crazy. And then how did you decide, the previous image was so um, monochromatic. It was all the greens. So how did you decide to pull just such an opposite, bright, vibrant color in the middle of this scene?
I always go back and forth because I love colors and I love opposing colors. So often, if I'm creating a moody blue type scene, like a dark moody forest, or like this, the moody blues of the ice, I love the contrasting colors like yellow or orange or even red with my red dress series, just to really pop out against the image. But then I also, for a lot of the more intimate images, which this one is quite intimate, and I
Mhm.
did make it very bold. So that's an interesting question. I guess it just depends on what I'm
I mean,
feeling
it's
each day.
perfect.
But a lot
Yeah,
of the intimate images, like the tree, I do want to feel more like I'm one with nature, and I'll try to
right,
match my
right.
colors to that.
Yeah, I love it. All right, what's up next?
What's up next? Let's see. Oh,
Oh,
speaking of the red dress series,
oh my goodness.
this is one of my older ones from almost 10 years ago, I think.
Wow.
And this image is called Rise Up and was taken in the highlands of Iceland. The Red Dress series I had started after my 365 project a couple of years later. I decided to start the Red Dress series as a symbolization of further stepping out of my comfort zone in front of the camera, embracing who I am, and trying not to be so afraid to share who I am with the world. So the red for me uh, felt bold. So I
Yeah.
started this red dress series to live life boldly and wholeheartedly. Um, and I started it in Iceland. And on this day when I took this picture, actually 2 days before, a few friends and I drove out to the Highlands. We had to cross this river in my friend's big truck. And it was the fall, and it was pouring rain and snowing at the same time. And when we crossed the river, the water got too high to cross back over. So we got stuck for 2 days in,
What?
in the Highlands. And thankfully, there was this hut there that in the summertime, there's lots of tourists that come and stay there and camp there. But at that time of year, there was still a couple of permanent residents there. So they welcomed us in, and the only food that they had to feed us was leftover coffee and cake mix. So they whipped up some cake and had a bunch of coffee for us for 2 days, which was
Wow.
great.
Wow.
But during those 2 days, it was so stormy and wet. But there was a mountain nearby, and we thought, well, we're here, so we might as well go exploring. So we climbed up this mountain, and with all the storm coming through and blocking the view, it kind of made this dreamy, hazy effect, and all these hundreds of rivers all entwining below um, really pulled me into the scene. And I thought, I need to take one of my new red dress series photos here.
Oh, this is
So I set
fantastic.
up, and it was freezing cold and windy, but it was so worth it.
This is amazing. Are you always shooting on a tripod with a remote, or do you have, are there occasions where somebody or Chris is shooting it for you? How do you set it up?
Yeah, for this image, it would have been remote. And then I eventually got fed up with remotes because they never worked as far as I would go from the camera. And I
Ah,
kept breaking them, running over them with my car, dropping them in rivers, dropping them
okay,
down
Brooke.
glacier ice. So yeah, so then I learned that intervalometers are a thing. And nowadays, intervalometers are built into cameras. So with my Sony A7R5, I have the intervalometer option starred in my personal menu so I can find it quickly. And when I'm setting up for a self portrait and ready to take the image, I just turn it on and adjust it to take a photo, maybe one photo every 2 seconds for however long it takes. I'll walk out in front of the camera and spend a minute or 5 minutes or an hour, come back, have hundreds of images to go through where maybe
Nice.
one I look semi-graceful in and all the other ones are awkward in between moments.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's
Yeah,
great. Let's look at one more for now, and then we'll come back
sounds
to the rest of
good.
it shortly. Oh,
All right. This one is called Spirit of the North and was taken in Tombstone Territorial Park up in the Yukon, Canada. And this was taken on a 5 day backpacking trip with my partner Chris and our dog Pepper just last year. And this is funny, out of that entire 5 days at this dream location that I've wanted to shoot for years, these jagged, pointy black mountains that look like where dragons can live.
mhm.
Um, Out of the entire 5 days we were there, this was the only photo that I got, just because the weather can be so brutal. And
Oh,
this photo was actually, uh, this trip was a redo of, I had tried to go here to take photos around this lake and these mountains 5 years earlier, and had driven all the way up to the Yukon, hiked, got one day into the backcountry with a couple of my friends, and one of them sadly had a quite a fall in the backcountry, and we were very lucky. It was during a snowstorm, but there were park rangers back there that were able to radio for help, and we all had to get helied out of there. And that was a whole ordeal that
yeah.
taught me about the real dangers of the backcountry and always going in prepared, and also made me realize that I can't handle high stress situations when I need to in that moment. So I was proud of us all for how we handled it and all got our friends out of there safely. But anyway, so that trip was cut short. 5 years later, finally went back with my partner Chris and our dog, and got this one image out of that trip. So I still want to go back again and get more.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
this one image was just taken on the last day when I realized I hadn't actually taken any images. I was waiting for the weather to all align, and otherwise just enjoying being there in nature and not pressuring myself so much to take an image.
Mm.
And usually my images come from when I'm feeling uh, ready to make them. I don't like to put myself under so much pressure all the time. I like to wait until the inspiration hits me. But as we were leaving and I realized I didn't take any, Chris stopped and he threw down his backpack and he was like, "You're taking one right here, right now. So you at least have
Yeah.
something."
Oh,
So
Chris. Yeah.
yeah, so sometimes it's good to have somebody to push you. And because once I took this, I didn't think it'd be that great, but now it's actually one of my more favorite images from recent years. And
Yeah.
yeah, That's a
Beautiful.
fun little story behind that one.
Beautiful. All right, so let's get you back full screen
All
and
right. Stop
okay,
share for
perfect.
now.
So what's on your, do you have this bucket list? Do you have like this list of places you want to go and make portraits?
Yeah. So many places.
What's your
Um,
number one? Like what's the pinnacle? Like what's the place?
it's a tie between Norway and New Zealand.
And
I'm
do you
dying to
have
go
a
create at
specific
both those places.
do you
Huh?
have a specific place within there? Like do you like for those cliffs, you knew you wanted to go back there and do
Mhm.
that. Do you have a specific place in mind, or you're just that country in particular? Or
Just the country in particular, I have a lot of vague ideas in mind, like epic fjords and mountains and cliffs and forests and waterfalls, but there's no particular place that I think I need to go here. I just kind of want to go there. Chris and I are plotting in the future years to go to each of those places for 6 months at a time, get a camper
wow.
van, and then just really take our time and create as the ideas come to us as we're seeing these places. But
Amazing.
yeah, both those countries have been the top of my list for years. So it's going to happen soon.
I cannot wait. That is amazing. So I've asked everybody in this series, is is photography the thing, or is it a means to an end?
I think like a means to an end, like um, something else more important. Yeah. Photography for me, um, or it's just a gateway into what I really love, which is being in nature and connecting with nature. And like I said on that Yukon trip, that was the one image I took in the entire 5 days. And that is totally normal for me when I go into the backcountry, whether for 5 days or 2 weeks or a month at a time. It's actually very rare that I'll come out with very many photos these days. I'd say 10, 15 years ago, I was more passionate about photography because I was learning and I was
Mhm.
driven to learn as much as I could every day. And now for me, it's all about uh, being out there, calming my emotions or uh, yeah, the anxiety I feel in my body just by being out in nature for days at a time. And when I see this moment that inspires me, that's when I'll try to capture that feeling through photography. But yeah, it's not so much about the photos anymore. Some years I'll go a whole year and only take one or two photos. Some years will be a more creative year and I'll take 20, 30, 40 self-portraits.
Mhm.
So it's, yeah, really not so much about the photos for me now, but more about being out there and being more present, seeing things with my own eyes instead of through the camera all the time these days.
Mhm. It seems like your work has become or is very intentional. So,
Mm-hmm.
whereas, like you said, you have learned a lot, you've gotten comfortable in your skill set, and so it's not the need to create for creation's sake. It's
Yeah.
message am I trying to tell, and what's the feeling
Yeah,
I'm trying to convey, and
for sure. I think photography, I've noticed that too, that now it's become a very intentional thing when I do create a photo. And it doesn't happen nearly as often as it used to. But that being said, there's other things like I've been playing around with videography more recently, and that I've just been doing creating for the sake of creating and having fun with it because it's something newer to me and I've been enjoying going down that rabbit hole. But as for photography, which is my first big passion, now it's gotten to the point where it's still a passion of mine, but I do it very intentionally compared to how I used to do it.
the tool.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, speaking of, video and another creative outlet, is there anything else that you do that's non-photography related that keeps your creativity going, or maybe gets you out
Yeah.
of the creative rut, or that flexes a different part of your brain that you enjoy?
Yeah. Like painting. I've been getting back into painting this year for the first time in 15 years.
Wow.
And I've really been enjoying that. I actually just dug out a huge canvas today that I'm going to start plotting my next little art for a poem. Uh, but yeah, painting with watercolors and acrylics and writing as well. I've always enjoyed writing. Yeah, whenever I feel like I need some kind of creativity outlet in my life, it's not so much photography just for the sake of creating anymore. I'll often go to the other things and where I feel maybe less pressure. Like with my
Yeah.
painting, I'm not expecting
Yeah.
to sell
Yeah.
it as prints or anything right now. It's just to create for the sake of creating and to,
Right.
yeah, help
To play.
calm
I think
myself.
that's important.
Yeah, I think so too.
When you paint or when you write, is it still nature centric?
Yeah, it is actually. Very much so.
That's
Yeah,
cool.
I think all my paintings have been of some kind of landscape or animal or something.
Well,
Yeah,
maybe you'll share those with us one day. I'm excited to
I
see
would
those.
love to.
So interestingly, as much of an introvert as you are,
Mhm.
and it's so interesting to hear you talk about anxiety before events and I think people, it's easy to look at somebody else and think, like, not realize that they have that issue, not realize that we get
Yeah.
nervous before a big thing or whatever, especially a self-portraitist, because she's fine in front of people.
Mhm.
Not realizing it's not necessarily about the, like you said, the image of you.
Mhm.
It's about the bigger meaning behind it. And as portrait photographers, we always say we're not selling the art, we're selling the way you feel about the art.
Yeah.
So when you're walking by that family portrait every day and the way that makes you feel with pride or sentimentality or love for your children or whatever, that's really what we're selling. And so I feel that that's no different than what you're doing, just with nature.
Yeah. Yeah. I totally agree with that. Yeah.
And then as this huge self-admitted introvert, community is I think become even more important to you than
Oh,
we
yes.
expect, like maybe more important than to people who are more extroverted. Can you walk me through that a little bit?
Yeah. It's funny how opposite these things are. Community is the most important thing to me, and yet I'm so introverted. I like to be far away from people all the time.
Yep.
um, but just knowing that you have people, even though I need so much time alone to connect with myself and know what I want to create and recharge, knowing that I have community, people that I can lean on and people that I trust, people who will always root for me, knowing I have that is such a push in the right direction and is the reason I'm here today to create all of these things. When I first started doing the self portraits and I made friends on Flickr with a bunch of these amazing artists. And I think it must have been about 12 years ago I started, or 13 years ago, I started meeting them in real life, which happened by accident. One of them had commented on a photo, one of my self portraits in the magical forest of BC. And one of my friends on Flickr commented and was like, "Oh, I need to go here." And I'm always like kind and more outgoing through the computer than in real life. So I was
Sure.
like, "Oh, well, come visit someday." And I didn't mean it.
We did.
And then and then he said, "Oh, well, I just bought a van." And he was from Michigan. And he's like, "I just bought a van and I'm planning a road trip now. I'll pick up a bunch of our Flickr friends along the way all across America."
Oh
So he
my
shows
God.
up with 12 people that summer.
Did you just
And
panic?
oh, I was in full panic mode, but it was happening. I couldn't stop it because I was too nice to say no. So all these people, all of our friends decided to hop on board this new bus van that my friend got and drove all across America. A few friends drove down from Alaska, a few came up from
Oh
California,
my
and
gosh.
they all came to my family's house, which thank God my parents are so supportive of me and my siblings and our friends and our dreams because I told them, Mom, Dad, is it okay if 12 strangers from the internet come crash in our
All
basement for a
strangers from the
week.
internet. I love it. I love it. And back in the days
Yeah.
of Flickr, like totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
That
yeah.
could have gone, that could have gone wrong in a lot of different ways.
Yep. But it's so funny because we all from around the world found each other through this common interest online through our creativity and our photography, and we all started rooting for each other and cheering each other on and wanted to collaborate together. And when this meetup happened, and I was so terrified, but when they all arrived, we just instantly clicked. And then it became like a yearly thing. We'd meet up and travel around the world, and it's these people have become like family to me, and they are what give me the inspiration to travel and create. And when those of us are going through hard times in our lives, we'll fly to each other's side and be there for each other when we need to. But it also works really well for me that all these people live around the world and not right here. So when we see each other, it has to be done intentionally and for several days at a time, which I think for me fills my cup way more than if I were to meet a local friend, say every month for a half hour coffee or something. That stresses me out more than flying across the world to meet up with my friends for a week of creativity together. So yeah, as introverted as I am, having that community means everything to me.
It is, I think photography as a whole, like probably many of the arts, it can be such an isolating, you know, solitary pursuit.
Mhm.
And we all kind of feel like we have to solve all the problems in our own bubble. And
Yeah,
the reality is there's really nothing that any of us have come up against that somebody hasn't also
yeah.
experienced. And I think that's why, and I'm going to speak for you too, but I think that's why we love the Sony Alpha Female community
Yeah.
because it's just this intense network of people who are always happy to help. Somebody is going to have the answer and they're happy to share
Mhm.
it. And there's no judgment. It's just lifting up so we
Yeah.
can all be better. And so, for those of our friends who are in the New York, New Jersey area, Sony Alpha Female is having a meetup next Tuesday at Creative Space.
Yes.
So make sure you check out the Facebook group for that and sign up. We'd love to see you. I know, Lizzie, you're not going to be there this
I
time,
know.
but
I'm so bummed I'm not going to be there.
I'll try and represent you proudly and do you justice. Um,
Thank
so
you.
let's talk about for a second. Is it because you do these amazing creative retreats that I want to ask you about?
Mhm.
Was that born from this get together that was happening with you and your friends? Like, walk us through what
Yeah.
those.
Yeah. So getting together with the group of friends for the first, say, 4 or 5 years after we all met, we would meet up regularly in big groups, and gradually over time, uh, people move on with lives, and my big circles of friends came down to just like a few, 3 or 4 close personal friends, which is all my brain can really handle.
Right, right, right.
um, yeah. And so we will meet up a few times a year. Um, but then meeting up with them and creating together did kind of spark that initial idea of doing creative retreats, something similar in the future, but something that, say, I could be paid for because it's tough to make money as an artist sometimes.
Yep, yep.
And I over the years, especially since I started my Red Dress series in Iceland, actually, I had had a lot of people asking if I would ever do a workshop there. So that had played in the back of my mind for the last 10 years. And then last year, Chris and I were living out of a van in Iceland for a month, and I was having one of the most creative summers in the last probably 8 years of my life. I took so many self portraits during that month,
Ah,
and I we were having a great time, and there was no pressure or anything. Nobody we had to meet. It was just our time, and I had such a blast there chasing all the midnight light while all the tourists were sleeping. And then I realized this would actually be a really awesome place. Like Iceland, I feel quite connected to. I've been there many times now. And if I were to host a retreat or a workshop anywhere, I feel most comfortable doing it there, at least starting there because you can't really take a bad photo in Iceland. You point the camera any direction and it's fine. So everybody would be fine. There's
Everybody
less
wins,
pressure on me.
right? Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
nature will pay for everything. And like, yeah. So, so we started thinking as we were road tripping around, Chris and I asked him if he wanted to consider doing this with me. And Chris already runs photography workshops for a living with his other business partners, some mutual friends of ours. So I thought I'd always been so shy to do workshops, but I thought with my partner, Chris, who already knows how to do these things, I
Yeah.
can organize it, plan it all. I can have Chris at my side to help with anything. I'll feel way more confident going into this. So that's when the plan was born, and we launched two back-to-back Iceland retreats, which happened just this past summer. They both sold out instantly, which I was
Oh my gosh.
amazed. I was not expecting that.
Wow.
And yeah, and we went, and I was so nervous before, but also less nervous than I thought I would be. For the first time in my life, I felt ready to
Mm,
share, to host this creative retreat, which differs from the earlier on meetings with people because as soon as people pay me, I feel immense pressure. So I
mhm.
was quite worried about that, but it ended up being such a great time of collaboration. And I never really fully realized how much other people can take what I have to share. And that week just taught me that I do have a lot to share. So I guess
You
I'll
do.
probably continue
Yeah.
some of
Yeah.
these
We
retreats.
underestimate that, don't we? We underestimate what we can
Mhm.
contribute to somebody else.
Yeah.
Just think, oh, it's easy for us. We do it all the time. So surely everybody else knows how to
Mhm.
do it. And but yeah, I'm glad that you came to that realization. And I'm sure the people that attend your retreats are so thankful too. So you did two
Yeah.
in Iceland, those sold out. So do you have what do you have this year? Did you already what
We we just wrapped up. We did another one on the west coast of BC where I grew up and just wrapped that up last week, and that was amazing. Again, I was very stressed in the month leading up to it. I think because it's so close to home, it's where I personally fell in love with photography, and I was kept thinking, oh, what if people don't like it? I mean, it might not be as epic as Iceland, but it's very intimate in its own way, which I'm glad all of our participants ended up loving it, and I'm very happy about that. But I was so nervous beforehand.
Oh,
But it's done now. It just proved to me that it's worth it again. So we're going to start planning. We did already launch a couple for Iceland again next year, and they are sold out already as well.
oh my
But
gosh.
so now we're planning where we're going to go next. Maybe another West Coast retreat, maybe somewhere else in Europe. Um, yeah, we're gonna plan it out soon, probably for next fall somewhere.
So how do we, if some of us wanted to maybe sign up for one of these retreats that
Mhm.
hasn't been announced yet, what's the best way? Like, do you have a mailing list or something that we can
Yeah,
subscribe to or something? Okay, so
yeah.
I think the
My
guys will put that in the chat so that people
perfect.
sign up
Yeah,
and be notified first, right?
yeah. My newsletter is where I send everything first. For those who want to sign up to my newsletter, the link I think will be in the chat. And whenever we launch a retreat, it's announced there first. Whenever I launch anything else, print sales or whatnot, it's sent out through the newsletter. So yeah, if you want to be the first to know about anything coming up, do sign up.
Okay, perfect.
Mhm.
Um, All right, let me look through my notes because I know I have other things and I can't believe we're almost at the end of our hour.
Oh my
Uh,
gosh, really?
I know. Can you believe it? You're doing so good.
That's
No
flying
reason to,
by.
you had no reason to be nervous.
Ah,
Um, okay, so I happen to have one of your prints because, like I said, you did the fundraiser with Christina Mittermeier
mhm.
and Paul Nicklin
Yeah.
over the summer. But you sell prints also, right? Like it's
Yes.
not just creating for Instagram and telling everybody to love the planet. It's like you have printed art, which I'm so happy
Yeah.
about because I think printed art is so important. So is that what, talk to us about that?
Yeah. So I revamped my whole print shop 3 or 4 years ago and found a printing company that I love, and I've started every year doing a new print launch sale. except for this year is the first time I haven't had time to do that. So next year will be like 2 years worth of new prints launching. But I do have all my currently available prints up on my website right now. And it is amazing seeing them printed when I've ordered in test ones, like even keep hitting that
Yeah.
candle, even some of the huge 40 by 60-inch prints. It is mind blowing to see it on paper
So
compared to
different.
a little screen. Like it
Yeah.
makes me realize we're not meant to be looking at these photos on screens, but more it is, I don't know, way
No,
better
we
printed.
believe the same thing for our family portrait studio.
Mm,
We want the work printed. I mean, that's how you can experience it the best way and
mhm.
really immerse yourself in the art. I think the things that are scrolling on our screen are so disposable and
Yeah.
we just move on to the next thing. And I remember watching you on Instagram when you got your first prints in. You had like a table set up outside, I think, or
Yeah.
something, right? And you were just like, it was so fun to watch you see these
No.
come in for the first time. And I loved watching that. That happened over several days or a couple weeks or something. I
Yeah.
remember several of those reels and that was really exciting. And so, but you also have a calendar.
I do. I have a calendar that's um officially launching to the public tomorrow, but I'm just gonna say it is up in my print shop now if anybody wants to get
Oh,
calendars ahead of time.
okay. Okay.
Um,
Perfect.
and I do have for today and tomorrow only a 15% off discount code, which is just 15 off all together
Okay,
in
I
all
think the guys
caps.
are putting that in the chat too. Okay, so
Yeah.
I'll be doing that as soon as we get off this call.
Oh,
Ordering my calendar, so I'm very excited.
I'm
Um,
so honored. Thank
what I'll bring it to next year's condo so you can sign it
you.
again. What is the image that you are most proud of, do you think? That's maybe not even your favorite
Hmm.
image, but the image that you think has had great impact, maybe.
Oh. Should I show you with
Yes,
screen
I
share?
have it. It's
Okay.
easy.
Oh gosh, there's a few. It's really hard to say,
Okay.
but I'm gonna go with the calm before the storm. Give it a minute here. Whoops, here we are.
All
You can
right.
see it?
Hang on. Let's see. Not yet. There we go. Perfect. Oh
Woohoo!
my goodness. That was worth the wait. That was worth the wait.
Oh, this
So,
one,
talk to me about why you feel that this image has been so important.
this one is called the calm before the storm. And this was one of the images that I created out of more of an emotional need to create. I was going through a bit of a harder time and uh, feeling quite lonely and defeated in a few ways. And I was camping with my family actually out on the coast of BC. And I would go for a walk every day with my dog Pepper and explore the beach. And I had found this lagoon. So this water, it's reflecting the sunset as these storm clouds were building. And the tide, when it's low enough, uh, the waves won't be washing over into this tidal pool lagoon thing. So it became very still and reflective. There was no wind or anything. And I walked out here with my camera, and I had remembered being at this place in years past, and there was this rock perfectly centered in this water. And I knew that if the weather was calm enough, I could capture reflections. So I was waiting for the right clouds to come in. And I decided I wanted to create something more intimate and something more for me that I might not even share to the world. But I have shared it now, and I'm glad I did because a lot of people seem to connect with it. um, but when I came out here, I wanted to wear, for this, I had this little nude colored dress, and I wanted to wear the least distracting outfit possible, just blend in
Right,
as much as
right.
I could, just um, be able to express myself through body language and not like a big bold red dress or whatever. This was a very different photo idea. So I came out here, I set up my camera, the storm was brewing overhead. Um, I hopped over to this rock and I decided the best kind of pose maybe to portray my feeling was being kind of hunched over, like as if I was broken, hiding my eyes with my arm, trying to hide away. But then my other arm, my palm face up in an act of surrender and just surrendering to what I was going through and accepting that and knowing that I could find a peace here in surrendering, a calm before the storm of whatever would come
Mm.
ahead. And I don't know, everything just kind of fell together and it was a very therapeutic photo shoot. I was the only person there. And right after I took that photo, it kind of felt like a weight had lifted off my shoulders. I think when we're feeling down, uh, doing something creative to express those feelings, whether it's writing it out or creating an image out of it, it will help you through those times. And right after I took this, then the lightning started unleashing across the sky
Oh,
and it started pouring. And I was having such a blast. I felt like this weight lifted and I was just dancing in the rain and the lightning. And then the lightning got really close and I realized I had my metal tripod and everything. So I thought I better run out of here. So I was running down the beach back to the shelter.
well, it sounds like a perfect release,
It
metaphorically
was,
and
yeah.
literally. So that's really cool. Um,
Yeah.
I'm gonna ask you to turn your screen share off one last time so we can wrap up. I'm so
Thank
bummed. I
you.
need another hour with you at least. Um, what would you say to anybody out there who has always been curious about the idea of self-portraits, but doesn't quite know how to start? Maybe they feel a little silly trying to do it, what advice would you give them to get started?
Honestly, when I started, the best possible thing that I was able to do was commit to the 365 project. Even if you can't commit to that, at least committing to a 52 weeks project, creating one photo a week or something, something to get you out there continually practicing and not trying to be perfect about it is such an important part. You don't have to create a masterpiece every day if you want to practice with self portraits. Just get out there and take them. And in the beginning, yeah, you should push yourself and you learn by experimenting every day. And yeah, I think that's the biggest thing, experiment and push yourself to create when you can. And then once you kind of find your niche in the way that you enjoy doing it, at least for me, that's when I was able to slow down and do it more intentionally from then on forward.
Great, 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 great advice.
Mhm.
Do you have one thing that you want people to learn from you? Like if this is they've encountered Lizzie Gadd from afar or whatever, and you're gone, like what's the one thing you hope they learned from you?
I just hope that they, I guess, would, uh, gosh, I don't know. I hope that they would learn, or at least maybe not so much learn, but feel some kind of sense of peace. If there's any kind of energy that I hope my work can give and that I hope I can give, would be a sense of, uh, yeah, loving peace to everybody that I come across. And I hope that that's what people will think of when they see my work or if I meet them.
That's fantastic. Well, I know
Mhm.
I felt that way when I met you, and I
Oh,
know that I just love seeing all of your images come across Instagram, and just loved meeting you and Chris at Condo, getting to spend more time with you. And I know that people who have been able to tune in or who are listening on our replay later will be so glad to have learned a little bit more about you. The work is so incredibly moving and emotional, and the fact that it's so intentional and not made after the fact, that you're really creating that in camera with great intention and thought is really special to me too. I really appreciate that. So
thanks, Monica. That means a lot.
it's really I bow down. It's awesome what you
Oh,
do.
gosh.
It's really, really
Thank
cool.
you.
So I know we've dropped some links in the chat for everybody, and you can find Lizzie on Instagram at Elizabeth Gadd, not Elizabeth
Yep.
dot. It's just
Nope.
Elizabeth. Okay.
Just Elizabeth Gadd, all one
Um,
word.
And if you haven't already, please join us in the Sony Alpha Female Facebook group. If you have any
Yes.
follow-up questions for Lizzie, you can drop them there. She'll pop in and give
Yes,
you as many
please.
answers as she can. She's so generous in giving with her knowledge. And but just come on over and join that group and say hello. And there's a whole bunch of people there ready to help you. And so before we leave, I want to say thank you to B&H for hosting this series and allowing us to meet these incredible Sony Alpha Female creators. And of course, to Sony for sponsoring this series and making it all possible. So we like to do business with companies who are believing in us and supporting us and enabling us to do our best work. And B&H and Sony are at the top of that list. So
Oh, yeah.
thank you,
Very lucky to
everybody.
work with them.
Yes, exactly. So thank you, Lizzie, for being here today. I so appreciate you. You can go exhale now. You made it. You did it. You did great. Thank
Thank
you,
you,
Sony
Monica.
and B&H, and we will see you guys next interview. Thanks, everybody. Take care.